A sunken Stonehenge in the Great Lakes shows carvings of animals that went extinct 10,000 years ago. Millions of fish are nesting in Antarctica where they shouldn't survive. Bizarre Arctic fires, frogs that vanish their own insides. These are bizarre anomalies that remain unexplained today. In 2007, archaeologists were scanning the bottom of Lake Michigan looking for shipwrecks when they found something that had absolutely nothing to do with shipwrecks. Sitting about 40 feet underwater near Grand Traverse Bay was a circle of standing stones, roughly 40 feet wide. When they got a closer look at one of the granite boulders, they found a carving on it. It appears to show a mastodon, an animal that went extinct at least 10,000 years ago. So, if that carving is legit, those stones were put there when that lake bed was still dry land, which means people were doing this kind of organized construction way earlier than anyone thought was happening in that part of the world. Geologists have been trying to argue it could be some kind of natural formation, but a near perfect circle of upright stones is a hard thing to chalk up to coincidence. But archaeologists can't point to any known group of people living in that area at the time who would have been capable of building something like this. To make it worse, because everything is sitting underwater, actually going in and properly excavating the site is a nightmare. The Milky Way is moving, not just spinning, actually traveling through space, getting pulled in a specific direction. And it's not alone. Thousands of other galaxies are doing the same thing, all getting dragged toward the exact same point in space around 1.4 million miles per hour. This point is known as the Great Attractor. The deeply uncomfortable part is that we can't see what it actually is. It sits in a region of space called the Zone of Avoidance, which is just a part of the sky completely blocked off by the thick dust and gas at the center of our own galaxy. Even with some of the most advanced telescopes we have, X-ray, infrared, all of it, we can barely make anything out. The best guess right now is that it's some kind of massive supercluster of galaxies, but when scientists try to run the numbers, the mass they can actually detect isn't anywhere close to enough to explain the gravitational pull we're experiencing. Something is out there though, pulling our entire galaxy toward it. In 2022, a team of polar researchers in Antarctica lowered a camera system beneath the ice of the Weddell Sea and found that spread out across the seafloor was the largest fish breeding colony ever discovered. An estimated 60 million active nests, all belonging to a fish called the Jonah's icefish, covering an area roughly the size of a large city. The reason this is such a problem for scientists is that deep sea ecosystems are basically deserts. Barely any food, barely any activity, almost nothing going on. So finding tens of millions of large predators all crammed into one spot is kind of strange. Scientists are still working out how on earth the local environment could possibly be producing enough food to keep 60 million fish alive and breeding in one place. In February 2026, paleontologists working in Niger announced a new species of Spinosaurus they've named the hell heron. Now, Spinosaurus itself isn't that new. We've known about it for a long time. It's one of the most well-known dinosaurs out there at this point, but what's very strange about this is where it was dug up. It was found hundreds of miles inland, nowhere near any ancient coastline. For years, we thought the whole thing about Spinosaurus was that it was basically a water animal, a giant aquatic predator that hunted in rivers, sort of like an enormous crocodile. That was the consensus, but this thing was clearly living in a forested, landlocked environment. Scientists are now in that awkward position of having to reconsider pretty much everything they thought they understood about Spinosaurus. As of early 2026, meteorologists are keeping a close eye on a major stratospheric warming event that their models genuinely cannot get a handle on. Here's how things normally work. Big temperature spike in the stratosphere causes the polar vortex to break down, cold air comes flooding south, and you get brutal cold snaps across large parts of the northern hemisphere. Predictable, but this one is behaving differently. The stratosphere spiked about 50 degrees Celsius above normal, which is a massive number, but the cold air that should be pushing down through the atmosphere is getting blocked. There's some kind of jet stream anomaly sitting over the North Pacific that seems to be interfering with the whole process, and the strange part is that it isn't something the models saw coming or can fully explain. Since 2016, diplomats and government workers have been coming forward with the same strange set of symptoms: vertigo, brain fog, and in some cases measurable neurological damage. This has come to be known as Havana syndrome. The debate around it has dragged on for years, with some official reports writing it off as psychosomatic, essentially a stress response with no full cause. But then, in 2026, a Norwegian scientist who's been skeptical of the whole thing accidentally exposed himself to pulsed microwave radiation during a lab test. These are extremely short, super fast bursts of microwave energy, and he immediately developed the exact same symptoms the victims had been describing. That matters because it's direct, accidental, real-world evidence that directed energy can produce the symptoms that those government workers have been reporting for years. But there's still the question that nobody's been able to answer. If this is what's happening to these diplomats, someone out there has this technology and they're using it in busy cities. Somehow it's not showing up on any sensors. No one has caught them. We don't know who it is. We don't know how they're pulling it off or why. In 2025, a new interstellar object entered our solar system and was designated 3I Atlas. We've had interstellar visitors before, for example, Oumuamua, which confused everyone because it was weirdly shaped and seemed to accelerate on its own. This new one is even stranger. Observations from the Webb and Hubble telescopes show it pumping out huge amounts of methane but almost no water vapor. Every comet we've ever studied in our own solar system does the opposite. Lots of water, not much methane. So right away, this thing doesn't match anything in our catalog. Then in early 2026, its path shifted slightly, but there was no obvious jet of gas or debris pushing it like we normally see with comets or asteroids. This is the same kind of mysterious self-propulsion that made Oumuamua so controversial, but this object has a completely different, previously unknown chemical makeup. Basically, this 3I Atlas doesn't fit any category we've ever seen, which means there are very likely way more space objects out there that we've never even conceived of yet. Most people assume a day is just 24 hours, clean and consistent, but Earth's rotation actually drifts around a little. It speeds up, it slows down, and all sorts of things are responsible for that. Shifts happening deep in the liquid core, the movement of ocean water, changes in ice coverage, all of it tugs on the spin in small ways. And over time, those tiny fluctuations add up to the point where timekeepers have to step in and adjust. That's where the leap second comes from. An extra second gets added to the clock every now and then to keep our time in sync with the actual rotation of the planet. Usually it gets added because Earth has slowed down slightly and the clock is ever so slightly ahead. But recently, Earth has been spinning faster than expected. Fast enough that scientists started seriously discussing removing a second instead of adding one. A negative leap second. That's never been done before, and it would cause some problems. Computers, GPS networks, financial systems, all of them are built around extremely precise time, and a sudden missing second would create a whole laundry list of errors. What's unsettling is that while scientists can measure these speed changes and connect them loosely to things like core movement and melting ice caps, they don't have a complete model that explains why the timing of these shifts looks the way it does. Some wildfires in the Arctic don't actually go out when winter hits. Rather than dying, they go underground, keep burning slowly through layers of peat. Thick, compressed, carbon-dense material made up of partially decomposed plants that can hold an enormous amount of fuel. The snow comes down, everything freezes over, months pass, and the whole time, down below the surface, these fires are still burning. Then when temperatures warm back up in the spring, those buried embers can work their way back to the surface and reignite on the surface. That's why they're often called zombie fires. They rise up from the ground like the undead in zombie movies. What scientists don't have a clear handle on yet is how extensive this really is, how deep these underground fires are capable of traveling, and how much carbon they're releasing in the atmosphere during the months when nobody's watching. Glass frogs are small tree frogs from Central and South America, and if you pick one up and look at it from underneath, you could see straight through the skin and watch its organs working. That alone is bizarre enough, but scientists recently figured out something even weirder going on with them. When these frogs go to sleep, they become even more transparent, and the way they do it is by moving up to around 90% of their red blood cells out of circulation and just parking them inside the liver. Red blood cells are what make it look red and opaque, so with most of them tucked away in storage, light can pass through the frog's body much more freely. The result, a sleeping glass frog basically just disappears against whatever leaf it's resting on, making it extremely hard for predators to spot. It's one of the most effective camouflage systems researchers have ever seen in nature. The part that has scientists confused is what should happen when you do that with any other animal. Clustering that many red blood cells together in one place causes clotting, blockages, potentially it can be fatal. Glass frogs do this every single day and they wake up completely fine. Researchers still don't understand how this works, but if they can figure it out, it could open up some amazing new directions in medicine, specifically in treating or preventing dangerous clotting conditions. And that's been the video. I will catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next one.